Now, I gotta be honest with you guys. If you would have told me last year at this time that I'd be welcoming an interruption to the Premier League campaign in favor of a World Cup in Qatar, I would have told you you're losing your mind. But yet here we are. Chelsea travel to St. James Park and lose 1-0. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. Essien! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the
championship! Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P., for what is your Chelsea match review show, but more specifically a tactical synopsis of Chelsea's performance against Newcastle. Before we get into all that, ladies and gentlemen, friends, foes, fam, please do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification button. It helps me with the algorithm, gets people to see these videos. If you like the content, share it, please. And of course, I do have a sponsor for the show. They go by the name of Major League Socks. And fellas, if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do. Hit them up. The link will be in the description. Okay, so in a departure from what we normally do, I'm not going to be doing a tactical analysis of Chelsea's performance against Newcastle. Just feel like it's just going to be a broken record. We've been speaking about this for weeks now. The same problems continue to manifest. Chelsea not good in the build-up. Chelsea not able to have continuity in attack. Chelsea not having a great awareness as to when to break the press, finding the soft spots in the press. All of these things continue to manifest themselves, and right now we just don't have a baseline fundamental, there's just even like a reference point for effort on the pitch. Somebody that we can look to say, I'm the leader, this is what you need to follow my instruction, follow my example to get us out of this. And, it's manifesting all over the pitch, as I said. So I'm just gonna avoid all of the tactical analysis and just get into what I think the actual problem is with this club right now, whether or not we can get out of it. We're going to look at Graham Potter and the things that we see from him, and whether or not these are the types of things that you want in, a manager of a big football club from like Chelsea. I'm just as frustrated as everybody else. I hate seeing Chelsea lose games. I absolutely loathe when I watch them and I don't see the effort that, has been synonymous with this club for, decades, just not come to the fore, at least show that they, they're united in, their ability to put effort into the pitch, and work a game plan and, be resolute in situations where most teams would falter. We're just none of that right now. Every time we have a hiccup, it just manifests and it continues to grow, and we don't have a way to get out of it. And a lot of that has to do with leadership, whether it be leadership in the management, the ownership, on the pitch. All of these things are the factors that are leading to Chelsea not finding their way out. I mean, I'm not trying to compare regimes, and I know we're trying to invent a new one here with Todd Boehly and co. But truly, when you look at the structure, the hierarchy of a football club, the instructions that you get, the effort that goes into putting in a winning performance, it comes from the top down. It starts with the ownership group. If the ownership group has a laissez-faire approach to wins and losses, it doesn't matter, we'll get them the next time, and there's no real repercussion towards having failed performances time and time again. It seeps through to the management. Obviously Graham Potter, just hired, is very, very comfortable in his position right now, has a 6-year deal, making $12 million a year. There's no repercussion. Like we're hearing in the media now that they're talking about if he doesn't finish top 4, there's no way he's going to get sacked. And I agree with that. I don't think that there should be a gun held to Graham Potter's head at this point in time. He's only, 3 months into the job. And, there's a lot of things that were wrong before he came that still need to be sorted out. But again, the mentality of this club has changed drastically. When you have a laissez-faire owner, and again, I don't know Todd Boehly personally, but I just feel like the approach that we've taken to, building this structure and whatnot has been very much laissez-faire. Well, we'll just throw some money at it and figure it out later. You give Graham Potter, who is an unproven manager, a 6-year deal, $12 million. He has job security right now. He's not going anywhere, and then, that trickles down into the playing staff. These guys don't feel the pressure to win. They don't have that anymore. They're very much, thinking about World Cups, and they're thinking about, not getting themselves injured. And, you can only imagine what the training sessions are like at Chelsea right now. You think about like back in the Drogba, Lampard, Terry days, those guys used to kill during training sessions. They used to kill because they wanted to win no matter what situation they were in. They always wanted to be the winners. And we just don't have that in this squad anymore. We don't have real killers. We don't have guys that will die on the pitch, to see the squad win. So, all of this stuff is just all culminating into these poor performances. And to quote my friend Kai on Twitter, who so eloquently said, Chelsea have lost their identity in pursuit of the new one. I agree with that 100%. We haven't really solidified what we're trying to do as a football club right now. The structure's not in place. The demands from the ownership's not in place. What the manager wants of the squad is not really in place. We haven't really seen a cohesive playing style. And much of this is just down to not having the baseline fundamentals of a football club, which is effort. The things that made Graham Potter so successful at Brighton was the fact that he was able to coax effort performances out of B-Tech players. Let's be honest here. Like, we're all pining over like the Brighton team, the Brighton squad and whatnot, but like most of those players would never get into a Chelsea side. They just wouldn't. So what he was able to do at Brighton was coax good to great performances out of B-Tech players. Whether or not he can do that now with this Chelsea squad full of internationals everywhere, guys that have won the Champions League, guys that have won Premier Leagues and stuff like that, won titles, whether or not he can get them to buy into what he wants to do is still up in the air. We don't have any answers to that yet, whether or not he can actually manage a big squad, manage the personality types. I saw Eunice online speak very candidly about like Graham Potter and how he's not necessarily the most raw manager on the touchline. And, you could see that. He's not necessarily a guy that's going to be like screaming out instructions a la, Antonio Conte or even Howe, if you saw Howe yesterday. But, I'm not necessarily going to chastise him for that. If he doesn't have that sort of approach to management, that's fine. But what you do have to be able to coax out of these players at every moment on the pitch is an effort, a reference point for effort. If you cannot get the performances, the next level down is at least show that you have the effort, you're fighting for the badge. And right now, I don't see anything that resembles that at Chelsea right now. And this is where the fundamental problem is for me, first and foremost. We just don't have the effort on the pitch to compete against, lesser opponents. We're not even meeting that baseline. And if we're not meeting that baseline, how can we aspire to winning titles? How can we aspire to, like moving up the table? If there's no, impetus to put the necessary passion, effort, commitment on the pitch, like you see guys like pulling out of 50-50 tackles and stuff like that. That would have never happened to Chelsea years past. Now guys are just worried about like the World Cup. Guys are worried about getting injured and stuff like that. And rightfully so. There are a lot of games and there's a lot of stress on a lot of players. But at the same time, when you're wearing the badge of Chelsea, when you're wearing that badge, the necessary fundamental point of being a Chelsea player is putting effort into everything that you do on and off the pitch. And we just don't see that right now. So when you say that we've kind of like lost our identity in pursuit of a new one, this is where it starts for me. We don't play the way that Chelsea of yesteryear have played. And that's because we don't have that baseline of effort. And we need that. Now, the next component of this whole thing that is sort of like pissing me off is just this incessant demand to play players week after week, game after game after game, despite, them putting in subpar performances. They're getting rewarded with minutes on the pitch despite playing extremely poorly. And I don't understand that at all. I'm of the opinion that if you're not performing, you should not be playing. It's next man up until you can get your head clear. You put in the performances on the training pitch that demand you get back into the squad. There's no reason why right now Christian Pulisic should not be getting more playing time. Not that he's been great when he's come on, but he's given us something that we haven't had. This a little bit more direct action and whatnot. Not even just him, it's all over the pitch really. We're seeing guys play, Mason Mount is being run into the ground, I mean, I'm not going to fault him for the performances. I just feel like he's playing way too much. And then when you go into the media and you're telling us that, like, well, he likes to play and, you know, for that reason I have to play him, or however you worded it, like, that doesn't really sit well with the supporters. You know, when you hear a manager saying, well, the guy likes to play very well, a lot, so we have to play him a lot, despite the fact that he hasn't been performing well. You know, I need players that are performing on and off the pitch. I need players that are performing in training and then carrying it over into the game and giving us top level performances. That's the standard at Chelsea. If we're not getting that standard, you know, we're not seeing these high level performances on the pitch, we're seeing like not even the baseline of effort, then there's no reason for you to be playing them match after match after match after match. You give somebody else an opportunity to show that they, you know, belong at Chelsea Football Club and that they're at least going to at least give you the effort that you require to be competitive in matches. We're not even competitive right now. We're not even competitive. We're getting blown out. We're getting run through. We're trying to work it up the flanks, and we're running down cul-de-sacs. There's no game plan that I'm seeing right now that's being implemented that is going to be conducive to winning matches in the Premier League, and that is so disturbing. You know, this is a squad that finished third last year, despite all of the turmoil and all of the, you know, off the pitch problems that we had. You know, like, think about it. We finished third. We won a cup, and we went to 2 cup finals. And now, you know, obviously new regime and whatnot. The demands are completely different. We're not even competing for top 4. We're not even competing for top 4. That is a stark change from where we were even a year ago. I'm just at the point where I want to see players who are fighting for the badge get the minutes, you know, get the opportunities to perform. You know, I know there's not very many that we can turn to right now that can come on and impact games and give us that sort of level of effort. But, you know, Thiago Silva is one. Conor Gallagher played okay yesterday, you know, not very well in the final third, but in terms of his effort and whatnot, at least the baseline, he was there. You know, he's got a decent performance from Lewis Hall, one of the young kids coming up and whatnot. And, you know, that you got to reward that. You got to give these guys opportunities to play, you know, and rest the guys that may be a little bit jaded and, you know, not giving you the performances that you want. I should say this, I'm the furthest thing from Graham Potter out. I've never been that way. I've always backed managers. I have no problem with giving them time. You know, obviously, you know, Graham Potter came in after the transfer window. He's going to need time to work his philosophy. There's a game every 3 days, so it's going to be very hard to coax, you know, the type of performances that we need to see. Again, I'm not shying away from the fact that I think that the baseline is still effort, and if you cannot coax that out of the players, there's something wrong there. But beyond that, in terms of like getting players that fit into his style, his philosophy, it's going to take some time. My question is, how much time does he actually get? You know, not with the management or with the ownership group, because we know they've given him 6 years, they're in it for the long haul. Like, they've given him $12 million a season, you know, like, that's a lot of money for a guy that hasn't even won a Tim Hortons Cup, for my Canadian friends out there. But beyond that, like, it's more than that. Like, we're still on a timeline of trying to get the right players to come into Chelsea. Like, the whole regime has changed at Chelsea right now, where, you know, the demand for winning, the demand for being successful, you know, all of these things have been, you know, ripped out of the club right now. We're starting afresh now. So do you think the top players now want to come to Chelsea, or will they want to come to Chelsea to play for this new ownership group that haven't really established what they want to do? A manager that hasn't really won anything, hasn't really identified a personality that he likes to work with. You know, like, all of these things, like, we're talking about top level footballers that have the world as their oyster in terms of where they can apply their trade. And I just don't see right now how much time is going to be given to somebody like Graham Potter, this new ownership group, to, you know, right the ship and then also be able to attract top talent. Like, it's not just about throwing money at it. It can't be, you know, because if you start throwing money at the problem, you start just signing people just because, you know, the only way you can get them to play for Chelsea is if you can put them on exorbitant wages and stuff like that. That's not the way to build a winner. You know, they have to want to be here, because the commitment on the pitch is what we're after. We need guys that are committed to the badge first, not to their paychecks. And I get it. It seems like I'm speaking in fantasy land, like, everyone's about the paycheck and whatnot. Everyone wants to be paid accordingly. But we're not going to be able to attract the top level talents who can command high salaries anywhere if we do not have, you know, an identity, a philosophy, an ideation at obviously the board level, and then obviously with the staff. So I'm not sure how much time he actually has outside of Chelsea. Like, when do people start looking at this situation at Chelsea and say, like, you know what, I'm not really messing with that right now. That's a complete tire fire right now. I don't want to go there. I can go to PSG, I can go to Bayern, I can go anywhere else, but Chelsea. Even Arsenal might even be more desirable at this point in time, as much as I hate to admit it. Like, when does that kick in? When do agents start looking at other clubs as a destination? When do players start thinking about, winning cups and, whether or not Chelsea is conducive to that anymore? Like, these are the things that worry me more so than the idea that Graham Potter needs his time to implement his system and whatnot. Like, we need a complete overhaul next summer. That is, without question, number one priority in the summer. Like, our midfield is going to have all sorts of holes in it. We still don't have a recognized, bona fide goal scorer. We still don't have the semblance of a strong defense. Like, all of these things need to be rectified sooner rather than later. And whether or not we can get those top level player types, like that A-list player, is still up in the air right now. I mean, there's lots of talk of Christopher Nkunku coming. That's a good start. Better get that over the line before he starts realizing what's actually happening at Chelsea right now. Like, these are the things that I need to see happen really soon. And, I don't know if we miss out in the Champions League this year, which is probably likely when you consider where we are right now, whether or not we can get players, we can attract the players to come in and play at this club. Now, with all that said, let's not lose sight of the fact that we have lost a ton of crucial key players to injury over this last few months, and it's definitely exposed the fact that we don't have a depth of squad yet. We don't have the necessary pieces that can come in, like for like substitutions all over the pitch yesteryear. Obviously, that's an expensive practice that we haven't been able to undertake for a number of years now. We can't be operating in the red anymore. And, the types of players that we've lost the last little while are the players that, would be basically filling in those holes right now anyways. But, we can't necessarily be crying about that right now. We don't have a depth of squad. We have a ton of injuries. And, that is part of the reason why we haven't been able to reach the heights. The baseline for effort for me has always been N'Golo Kante. Players, he has this infectious personality, a guy that puts 110% effort on the pitch all the time. And, that sort of energy is contagious. Guys pick up on that. And right now, we just don't have that reference point with N'Golo Kante being out. And it's no secret that once N'Golo Kante started becoming a little bit more injury prone, the performances from Chelsea have started to dip. Like, we haven't had that reference point for effort, that tireless runner, that guy that can get all around the pitch and, is world class when it comes to, like, breaking up plays, intercepting, winning the ball back. We need that. We absolutely need that. There's nobody else in the squad right now that's capable of playing and springing traps and winning the ball. He's our only real world-class midfielder. He's the only guy that we have. And midfield, as you all know, is the position where the games are won and lost, and we're losing a lot of them, just down to the fact that we just don't necessarily have the physicality and effort right now. The other area is Reece James. I mean, he's probably the best right wing back in the world right now. And, like, you can't replace that guy with Azpilicueta or Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Let's just be real. Like, the quality that he gives us is immense. And when you think of the synergy on the pitch, you take a building block like, Reece James out of the lineup, that's a massive hole. Like, now that the synergy that we once had is now gone. We have no influence on that right side of the pitch right now. Like, none, where we can, use that as an outlet and a way to express our football. That's not there anymore. So that side of the pitch has now been locked off. There's nowhere we can go on the right side of the pitch and be effective right now. So there's a lot of pieces that we've lost to injury that would be influencing what we're doing as a football club right now on the pitch. And we can't ignore that. We can't be judging the performances of Graham Potter and the playing staff knowing that we are so severely, handicapped with injuries right now. If we're not going to find health, then we have to build a depth of squad that can compensate for, you know, the multitude of injuries right now. And there's just no way to do that right now. And I think that Graham Potter recognizes that. He's not going to berate the club, berate the playing staff for poor level performances when you have to trot out guys match after match after match just due to the fact that there's nobody else in the team right now that can play. So we have to give it time. We have to allow for these guys to get healthy before we can truly analyze what Graham Potter is doing. And we have to, you know, in the winter transfer window, we have to bring in some bodies that can replace some of the older, broken down bodies or give us good minutes when guys like Reece James and N'Golo Kante are not fit. Because it's seeming like those types of players, the way they play, means that they're not going to be fit, you know, for 80-90% of the season. They play a robust style of football that requires, you know, rest, recovery, and if we can't give them that, then they're just going to keep getting injured. Yeah, and I'm going to wrap it up there. I mean, not much of a match review, but what is there to talk about right now? There's absolutely no structure at this club right now. Like, what are we trying to do on the football pitch? You know, we can't even break down a press anymore. There was a time where Chelsea were razor sharp. Like, teams could not press us because when they did, you know, we just played through them. You know, every time we got on the ball, playing out from the back, every time we just kind of ran down the flanks and did not try to work the ball infield. And that is where the soft spots of the zone. We just failed to work the ball back infield to break the press. And, you know, as a result, you know, as soon as we got pressed high up the pitch, the plan B was to go long to a striker who could not hold the ball up, you know, or even if he did knock it down, our midfield wasn't, you know, close enough to win second balls or aggressive enough to win second balls. So we had all sorts of problems playing out from the back and also going long. It's no wonder that it felt like wave after wave, Newcastle coming at us and just, you know, blowing us apart with their press game. You know, they had more intensity. They had played a much quicker game than we did, and we just couldn't match it. And, you know, we just don't have any pace on the pitch anymore for whatever reason. Speed of thought, speed, like physical pace, and all of that stuff is just void right now. So we need to overhaul this club. We need to overhaul this playing staff. But it's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen tomorrow. So we just got to bear with it and hope that the right decisions are being made behind the scenes. But until then, you know what to do, fellas. Keep the blue flag flying high and up the Chels and Canada. Peace.